This is Hannibal here from thehannibaltv.com with a daily wrestling news update for you. Just a quick note, there was supposed to be a Great North Wrestling podcast with Tony Jones from Beyond the Mat tonight, but according to Jack Kilby, for whatever reason, he no-showed the podcast. There is a couple interviews with Tony Jones on this channel that I conducted, and any of my dealings with him in the past, he seemed like a reliable guy, so that's a little unusual. But let me jump into the news. There's a lot of it. Ringside News is reporting that Vince McMahon is already back in the WWE offices and suggesting changes, and the Wrestling Observer has confirmed that this is true. According to what Talent was told by Triple H on Friday, he's going to remain in charge of creative, but Vince could make suggestions, but he will still be making the final calls. Of course, Vince could always change that because he does own the company. As we've seen, if there's something he doesn't like in the company, he could just change it because he's still the owner. As far as the sale, there's no real updates other than apparently Comcast, which is the NBC group that's worth about 163 billion, would have the most to gain from buying it because of the hundreds of millions a year in rights fees they're paying right now. But it would be unlikely that they would want Vince to be in charge of the company still, and it'd be the same thing with Disney and Amazon. However, if the Saudis bought it, they would probably leave Vince running it. And for the people that are saying no one would do business with the Saudis, they do own the Newcastle United soccer team, as I call it, soccer. And they own a lot of U.S. businesses. So despite the human rights differences there to North America and Europe, people still work with them. And in reality, there's only about 3 people that don't go to Saudi Arabia now due to having issues with the 2 Saudi Arabia shows they run a year there. So I don't think it would change much. I heard Dave Meltzer say there's a very slim chance that the Khans would actually buy buy WWE. For one thing, they're only worth 13 billion, and WWE is looking to sell for about 8.5 billion. So they need partners, and then Vince conceding to another wrestling company. I don't know. That would be a difficult thing to see happening. It might be exciting to see scenarios off of if they became one company, but it would be bad for talent overall for one company to have a monopoly over wrestling again, because from what I understand, Impact didn't even get a rating this week. New Japan didn't even get a rating this week. I don't believe MLW or NWA are on American TV. So it's not like there's really anywhere else that you can make decent money other than WWE and AEW in the US. So it's good to have competition. By the way, John Cena reportedly filmed a segment with Austin Theory at the December 30th WWE SmackDown in Tampa. And Austin Theory was pulled out of his cage match in Toronto with Seth Rollins in order to record this. And I guess Theory was replaced by Finn Balor in that match, which there's a name I haven't heard in the news for a while. But there has been talk of Logan Paul against Cena for WrestleMania, but sorry, it's still freezing cold here. Everyone's getting colds. But I think Austin Theory against Cena would be a disappointment to a lot of people who would rather see Logan Paul against Cena. And that would be the match that people would care more about on the mainstream too. But I do know there's a lot of current fans out there that like Austin Theory, but he doesn't have any any appeal beyond that at this point. Nowhere close to what Logan Paul is, so he wouldn't bring in necessarily extra buys to have that match. Apparently, Fox used both Paul Heyman and Nate Diaz on their broadcast of the San Francisco 49ers game on Saturday. Apparently, the Ringer founder Bill Simmons has confirmed that there is still going to be a Vince McMahon Netflix series that is being done with the WWE. So don't expect it to be too controversial if the WWE is involved in doing it as well. Apparently, this was confirmed on the Ariel Helwani show this week. Ariel Helwani has been getting a lot of controversy lately for not paying the fighters that he interviews and making money off of them, despite complaining that UFC doesn't pay their fighters enough. And speaking of UFC, Dave Meltzer has reported that Brock Lesnar was the highest paid heavyweight fighter of all time, making $8 million for his last fight versus Mark Hunt that was ultimately ruled a draw since Lesnar failed the drug test. And apparently Francis Ngannou turned down more money than any heavyweight has ever made to fight John Jones in March. So Dana White, who is now back to business as usual at UFC, has stripped Ngannou of the UFC title. Ngannou hasn't fought for about a year anyways. And Cyril Gang, who was the interim champion that Ngannou beat, but he has won a fight since then, is now going to face John Jones. And Jones has signed an 8-fight contract. So Meltzer brings up that he's not sure, well, Ngannou's 36 now. If he does have that exhibition fight against Tyson Fury under boxing rules, maybe he could potentially make $8 million. But it's not like there's another MMA company that could pay him $8 million or another fight that he could have right now that would be worth paying him $8 million. Because let's face it, I mean, Ngannou beats Cyril. So Ngannou versus Jones is the biggest money fight, and Ngannou is a bigger star. But I don't know. I really don't know who else Ngannou could fight, because it's not like he's a massive star that could merit getting $8 million to fight many other people other than a Tyson Fury. So who knows? But for now, he's out of a job. Al says, good evening. Good evening to you. I got my dog back here sleeping beside me. She doesn't like the cold any better than I do. Chris, yeah, Vince McMahon would get a bigger pop than anyone on the current roster. I agree with you. I agree with you 100%. The only one that I think Hogan would get a big pop because he's been off for a while, and The Rock obviously would get a massive pop, but I don't know if there's many that could match Vince, because Austin appeared last year, and Vince has been through so much, and the way wrestling fans work, I just know the mentality of wrestling fans, and they would probably find this whole situation quite interesting and cheer him coming back for sure. Dave, I was saying all along, for everyone saying Vince McMahon is retired, I don't think you could find one clip of me in any of my updates saying that I believed he was really retired, because I always knew he was the majority stockholder of the company. And someone says Vince will never relinquish control. Well, he could make a deal where he sells it to someone and they make an agreement to have him in control, then take him out of power. But at this point, he's already fairly old. He's in his late 70s. So If a company like Saudi Arabia buys them and keeps them in power for a few years, really, I don't know how much longer he's going to live. We know he doesn't sleep much. We know working is important for people that live long. It's good to work and have drive and purpose in life, but lack of sleep isn't necessarily that good. We do know he has, I believe he's admitted to taking steroids before, which isn't good for your heart. I don't think his brother lived to be crazy old. His brother passed away, but his mother lived to be pretty old. But who knows? Maybe he's going to live to be 100. I have no idea. Mike, who's leaving first? I don't think any of them would leave because they all get paid very well. Who would Vince get rid of? Well, Hit Row has been the biggest waste of money out of all those. Hit Row has been an embarrassment. As I said, not only Hit Row, but everyone that took the phantom bump off of that dive that Top Dollar screwed up. But I don't think anyone wanted them back other than Triple H. Karrion Kross, a lot of people wanted back, and I would out of those, the person I would keep the most is Kross. He has the biggest upside. Bray Wyatt's pretty stale. I've even heard Bray Wyatt fans lately say that they're finding this latest run pretty stale. Daniel says wrestling needs the Saturday morning jobbers back. Those were good days. Those are good days. Captain Tight Pinkman says a limo explosion can't get this guy. Nothing can. Wallace says I think the WWE needs to have their wrestlers from about 10 to 15 years ago draw viewers. Well, it does draw, just like when they do this 30th anniversary Raw and bring back the old guys, it will draw. But, those guys can't wrestle at the same levels anymore. I won't even speculate on what could be done to make wrestling better from a fan standpoint. Obviously, from profitability, it's profitable, but I think they're realizing that now with the quality of the product not being there, and the rights fees still really high, eventually it's going to crash. It's going to catch up, and they're better off to sell it now before the rights fees goes down, and you're left with a product that is not as popular on a mainstream level as it once was. Captain Tight Pigman, yes, apparently Brock Lesnar was the highest paid heavyweight ever, making $8 million for that Mark Hunt fight. Someone says Vince is immortal. Barry is glad Vince is back. Yeah, no comment. The Sneaker Addict says Vince sucks. Barry, I don't think 8 fights. I don't know. Let's look up how old John Jones is. Let's take a look. He's got an 8-fight contract and he's 35 years old. He could technically fight 8 fights more in his career for sure. But if he gets injured and doesn't fight for a year or two, he's going to get older and older. And we all know as fighters get older, their skills don't stay as much. He already hasn't fought for a while, so this will be the first test of how his skills are. And he's another guy that hasn't been the most favorable on his body, but he's extremely gifted. But when Anderson Silva, he's still a great fighter. He made short work of Tito Ortiz, and but when he went from being like an unstoppable fighter to something else fairly quickly. So I don't know if John Jones will be able to keep the momentum going, because I think the only fight he lost out of something like 27 fights was on a disqualification. So who knows if he'll fight all 8 fights. The money hasn't been revealed yet, how much he's making. Someone says the corporation faction is real life. Grandma Daisy, Pops for Piper. Yeah, I'll show her to you. I'll break kayfabe here. You see her? My room full of garbage. She's sleeping down there. I know you guys like seeing her, so she woke up at her name, but yeah, she's doing great. No Gimmicks, guys, is Tuesday at 6 p.m. Maybe that's the rescheduled for Tony Jones. Young Macho Man. I don't know. I don't know. Don't really do many podcasts these days. I try and just do my own, to be honest with you. Captain Tight Pinkman, majority stock owner has majority voting power. Yes, that is true. Somebody says, "What's up? It's been a while since I watched a live stream. Sorry if he's late." Keith Richards is 400 years old. He's up there. Someone's mom is 103. Congratulations. His brother was 77 when he died. So his brother was the same age as he was when as he is now when his brother passed away. Someone says, "Will Zombie Linda take over?" God. I don't know. We haven't heard anything about Linda for a while. Barry, yes. Sylvester Stallone has aged great. Someone likes AEW better. Kurt, will the Khan make a major push to buy WWE? As we stated earlier, I mean they're already looking at selling it for $8.5 billion. The Khans are only worth $13 billion. So they would need partners. And would Vince really want to sell to the competition with how much he bragged about buying Ted Turner? I don't know. I have no idea. Somebody says wrestling TV shows need to go back to being 1 hour long. I agree. And AEW should cut a bunch of its internet shows. They got way too much content. And they should cut their talent. They should cut their roster down and keep only the best and have less programming and make the programming really good, because they do have potential to have good shows, but there's a lot of stuff in there that's crap. Jerry says he thinks Uncle Howdy is Bo. Well, it appears to be Bo from all reports, who didn't do much of anything in the time that he was not employed. The time he was released, I didn't hear of him wrestling anywhere. Jay Miller says heavyweight John Jones. Yikes. He's probably a more natural heavyweight. TJ thinks WWE will collapse if Saudi Arabia purchases it. I don't think it can get more crappy as a product than now from a viewership standpoint from me watching it. Like it's very difficult for me to even watch the 3-minute highlights. So I hope it sells to a private company, because it going corporate has been bad for the entertainment value of the product, whether it's Saudi Arabia or Endeavor. I would just like to see it, because I'd like to see a less corporate product. Barry feels like John's head isn't in it anymore. Yes, she did look up for the camera. She had a busy day, lots of visiting people, so she's tired now. And CM Punk return. CM Punk, it's not looking like he's going to return to AEW. They took him off the cover of the video game. They're just going to pay. They don't want him to go to WWE though. So it appears that Tony Khan is just going to pay him to sit at home for now. I think he's got over a year and a half left of his contract, making like $3 million a year. Robert, I like various types of music. I would say hair metal is my favorite, but I really like almost all music. Bill, Am I coming out of retirement to wrestle? Fans want me to. I appreciate that, but no. Zero interest in that. Unless Tony Khan wants to sign me to one of these huge deals where you only have to wrestle here and there, and you could sit at home making a huge amount of money for doing nothing. That would be wonderful, but I don't ever see that happening. Kevin. Yeah, the locker room is not going to walk out the second it's announced Vince has regained creative control. That'd be in violation of their contracts. And AEW is already overloaded with talent. These people need to make money from somewhere. Danny liked my interview with Bill Irwin. What a train wreck that was. Troy thinks WWE is not going to sell in the end. Who knows? Who really knows? This would be a good time for them to cash out. Ryan thinks AEW has great talents, but they need to get rid of these internet shows too. These internet shows are, it's just way too much content. People can't follow all their content. Robert Brown, did TNA or Ring of Honor ever reach out to you? I wrestled a few times for TNA. Back around 2007, Terry Taylor was interested in having me feud with Abyss, and I did actually wrestle Abyss on their 2007 Quebec tour. But they ended up, I forget if it was Dustin Rhodes or Ricky Banderas that they gave the feud to. Otherwise, and the last time they used me was very disappointing. It was like they came to Ottawa and it seemed they only wanted to use me to get publicity for them in Ottawa, which I got them a lot of extra publicity. And the night that I wrestled for them, out of like the 5 or 6 shows they had in Ottawa, was the second best crowd they had after Bound for Glory. And I had really pushed in the media that I was wrestling for them. And then they had me job, which why make a local guy job? I just found that there was no benefit to that. And they never even came back here since. And it just sucked because there was a lot of people in that crowd. There was some dressed like me as Hannibal, lots of Hannibal signs and stuff. But they had me play the villain. Even though I was wrestling as a babyface of Great North Wrestling at that time. And then they had me lose, which it was just sad. And now, thank God AEW has come in and there's other options for people. Joseph Morrison, what is Melina like in person? She's great. She's a wonderful person. I have nothing but positive to say about her. She's a wonderful, wonderful person. Troy, none of those new kids have the same talent as the Blood Hunter. Well, thank you for that. And on that note, I'll shut it down. Have a great week next week, everyone. I'll keep you posted on the news.
Thank you for watching the Hannibal TV. Please like this video if you enjoyed it and click the subscribe button to not miss any of our latest shoot interviews, match videos, or news updates. Follow us